Hey, everybody. Happy Wine Wednesday. I'm sipping on Chardonnay. Holly, what you got in your hand? That looks pretty.
Oh my gosh. It's a plantation 20th anniversary rum that I'm
Oh.
going to be sipping neat. I haven't had any yet. So and I
Right.
probably
Sometimes.
won't have more than this or maybe a second one, but
Right.
today was one hell of a day. So I'll tell you about it when we get into the chat.
Absolutely. But what we were saying mainly is Happy Wine Wednesday. I want to, and I'll be
So
experiencing
that.
all of Holly's cool little concoctions when I visit her in just a few weeks. I am so excited. Guys, we're going to do Happy Wine Wednesday from her home on, what is it? Uh, what's the date,
It's
Holly?
the ninth, I believe. Don't you get here on the 8th?
So Wednesday will be the
Whatever
10th.
that Wednesday is, the second Wednesday in July.
So actually, before we jump into the chat, I see you, Cora Works. I see you, Aquaballs. I see you, Zen. I see you, Shyla. Welcome. So glad you're here. Just to let you guys know, we've exploded all of a sudden. Maybe not in ratings yet, maybe not in, viewership yet, but we have some cool things coming up. So we have Aquaballs George coming on the 19th of June. We have Graham Short and Chris Carey coming on the 26th of June. We have Macro Lady tentatively coming on the 7th of June. More to talk about Macro Lady in a moment. And we have Sawyer coming on the 17th of June. So we're like booking people like crazy. So you guys wanted more. I'm trying to give you more. We've got guests coming. We will always, even when we have guests, make time for open chat if a newcomer has questions or whatnot. But for those of you that are regulars, we've got some cool things coming. That being said, in the middle of all those dates will be the 10th of July when I will be hosting Wine Wednesday live from Holly's house. And I'm so excited to visit her and see her seahorses. The
I'm
one thing I did,
excited too.
yes. And the one thing I did want to mention, guys, just a super duper surprise. You guys know that I've been dying for fry so bad. Um, and mine aren't giving them to me. I was sure they did an egg exchange and then nothing. And so I'm living the frustration that some others feel. I know a lot of you out there are like, I don't want fry. I would love this situation. But in my case, I do want fry and they aren't giving them to me. Not sure if it's the tank, if it's the seahorses, if whatnot. So what I've done is I have rehomed, purchased a pair of seahorses from Macro Lady that will be here tomorrow, you guys. I'm so excited. I will try to remember to do some posts, I promise. But I'm getting another pair just to kind of mix it up. I've got some thoughts, tips, questions. I wish Ray was here. I hope he joins us. But just about, how I'm going to do that. Because if I buy from the same breeder and I'm secure about the seller, then I usually don't do a super duper quarantine. Whereas I trust Macro Lady, but it's a different breeding source. So Holly and I were talking before we started the stream. We can talk more as we get into it, just about how I'm going to handle adding them to either of my tanks, right? Whether or not I need to take some time, observe, and whatnot. But Macro Lady herself should be here on what date did I say? Sorry, I have to check my notes here. She should be here on the 7th.
July,
No, 3rd. Sorry.
oh, July 3rd.
July 3rd. I'll have
Okay.
this all in a post, guys, so you can
And
see who's
so
coming when.
Sawyer is July 17th.
Yep, here's my list, and I'll put it up. But yeah, you guys can't see that. And my phone
And
looks
then
really
some
dirty.
other ones, yeah, you had said 7th of June. So you
So
meant
I've got,
July.
if I said it wrong, let me repeat it. I've got Aqua Balls George, whom I just
June.
learned we have some heritage kind of connection, which will be cool to talk about.
Oh, sweet.
But he is coming on the 19th.
Mhm.
of this month. Graham Short and Chris Carey are coming on the 26th of this month.
Yeah.
Macro Lady is hopefully coming on the 3rd of July. And then Sawyer, who we've talked about before, is trying to become a commercial breeder, but also has a job that he can't discuss everything with us, but he can, talk about rearing and breeding and etc., just not details. But we can find out what's going on with him on the 17th of July. So that's where we're at. We got lots of people coming again. And I'm sorry, Zen, if I said June, July, all over the place. Right.
Everybody's all mixed up now. What?
Sorry. What I
We'll
just
be
said
here.
is the truth.
Tune in.
Yeah, just tune in. And I will do a post showing who's coming. Whenever I have a guest coming, I always do posts and make sure that there's an advertisement. So don't worry, you won't miss it. I was just giving you a heads up. But okay, so Holly's sipping on some super cool juice tonight because she had a horrible day. Tell us about your day before we jump into Seahorses.
Yeah. So I picked up this bottle actually in the winter for a sipping rum. It's a special bottle. It's plantation rum for Barbados. This is a 20th anniversary release. And it's actually really good. So I just have it for sipping now and then and for special cocktails. So I decided to have some today because today was just crazy. Today was a Monday, even though it's a Wednesday.
Right, gotcha.
It's my Seahorse water change day today, but it also fell on 6-month Aquachar change out day. I change out Aquachar like every 6 months. And the thing is, because that's not very often, I forget how to do it every time. So
Sure.
I have to look it up every time. So anyway, I had trouble with the char chambers getting them apart. Like
Okay.
I couldn't get the top off. They'd fused on 2 of them, on the ones in the tiki tank. So I have them in the kitchen over a bucket because if char comes flying out, it's kind of expensive. So I want it to land where I can save it. So can't do it. So finally I had Scott come help me, my husband, and he comes in and he gives it a little tap with the hammer, and that loosened it. So I was able to get it off and take it apart. And then I had to go online and, oh yeah, how much is it? Half? I remembered I was supposed to do half.
Mm-hmm.
But then I couldn't remember what the recipe is for the peroxide to soak it. It's like
half
peroxide, half water for 24 hours is the soaking procedure, by the way. So I couldn't remember that. So I went and got on the computer and figured that out. And then the day's getting later and later because meanwhile, I had at the same time, I had clients texting me. I had phone calls. I had all this stuff just happening that doesn't usually happen on a Wednesday, right? So it's taken me longer and longer. The day's getting hotter and hotter outside. But I had all the tanks back together and I was just working on the char chambers finally. And so part of what happens when you put new char in the char chambers is that it makes the water black. So when you first start new char, it's kind of loose. So you run it in a bucket for 15 minutes. So grabbed a bucket of salt water and threw them in there for 15 minutes. And they have like rigid airline that comes out the top that you hook to your normal airline, to run them. So I brought him into the room with the bucket and I didn't bring the airline with me. I just had their rigid airline, not the ones that connect to them in the tank. So
Okay.
I connected a line because I have a pump with extra outlets and I had extra airline. So I used that to run them in the bucket.
Okay.
And when I went to take it off, I couldn't get it off the rigid airline. It was like,
Ah.
oh, so I'm like this now, trying to get it off. And I ended up separating the rigid airline from where it's connected inside the whole char chamber.
Okay.
So I had to take it completely apart, not the part where you put the char, but underneath where it attaches to the sponge filter
Right.
underneath. So
Okay.
all the guts of it and take out all the char that I just put in it.
And that was
But
because you
it
wanted
it
to
was a
what?
pain in the butt, but in the end, now I know how to make one myself because I saw
Right.
all of it.
Right. Right. But I got a few questions because I have a few comments about the char chamber. I still absolutely love the
Uh-huh.
Robert King char chambers, and we need to get him
Yeah.
back in here. We could ask him these questions live, which would be better instead of us just discussing. But so the reason you needed to take it apart and etc. is because why? Because
It's
you couldn't get
connected
the
inside. Okay, so inside of it, where the sponge filter is, it's connected to an air stove. So
yes,
there's 2
yes,
rigid lines that come together.
right.
Well, I separated the 2 when I was
Oh,
trying to take the
okay.
floppy airline off of the rigid airline, it went pop, and
Okay.
then I couldn't get it back in to connect because it was stuck in the char part of the chamber. It wouldn't go
Gotcha.
down into the sponge part. So
No,
I
I
had
got
to
you.
take it completely apart. And inside, it's simple. So
Right.
fortunately for me, I was able to get it all back together. It was just a pain in the butt.
So real quick
So,
question though, how big is your char chamber? Because mine with the rigid airline, there's not two connecting pieces.
oh, it's tall. I have a tall one.
It's
It's
rated for how many gallons?
40.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have
Huh.
two for 40 gallons, and they're like about yay tall. So they're pretty tall.
Well,
But yeah,
again, we need to get
inside they connect. It goes through the char, through a
yes.
hole, and then connects to another one inside of the sponge thing. And the sponge thing was falling apart. I got it all fixed. And like I said,
And
now
that's
I know how
awesome.
to
I
make
was just saying,
them, but it
no,
wasn't hard. It
and I
was
was
just
just
a
saying
pain.
though, I was just saying though, in my case, I've had some issues with the char chamber that I'll talk about in a minute, but mine doesn't have that two connecting
It
rigid
only
airlines,
connects
but
one.
mine's rated for smaller,
Well, I
you know,
didn't know
char
mine
chambers.
did either until it came undone.
Right, right.
You
But I have
live,
had,
you learn.
well, I have had the problem that finding the right airline to connect to that rigid airline from the pump. Like every time I find it doesn't matter the diameter or whatnot. I've tried multiple different airlines
Uh-huh.
and I always they're either too loose, they don't work, or it's so tight that you have to
I just
like
use the standard one that well they sell at Walmart and everywhere, whatever normal aquarium sizes. I use that one and it's hard to get on and it's
yeah,
hard to get off. And that's why I
yeah.
had that issue. And so
So
yeah, it was got stuck on there. I'm trying to get it off, and then the airline it came completely separated inside of it. So it was just a pain.
yeah.
But I got it all back together finally, and I come and I put it in the tanks, and then something happened.
Okay.
I went to start up the regular pump, and on the return nozzle, and you'll remember back when Cheryl was joining us, she talked about this. When you plumb your return, you have to have a siphon break.
Okay.
So that it doesn't drain all the water out of your tank, if it sucks back in. So ours is homemade. My husband did it. He rigged it for me. And
Okay.
so it had a little spout from a drilled hole that he put in the pipe of the return. And
Okay.
then we ran a airline from that, a piece of airline running from that into the tank. And
Hmm.
water runs constantly through it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, somehow, I don't know, I bumped it or something. And I broke off that piece that connects the siphon hose.
Gotcha.
And I was leaning over the tank apparently, and all of a sudden water comes squirting out of that
Oh.
hole right in my face.
Mm,
And it's like a fountain. It's coming straight up into the
mm,
room. And I couldn't leave it because it was going to spray everywhere. And I couldn't reach the cord to unplug the pump. So I had to yell for Scott in the other room to come and unplug the pump to give me a chance to figure it out and fix it. And
oh,
thankfully,
jeez.
I figured out what fits the hole is one of those little valves that connects like two pieces of
Sure.
airline together.
Yep.
So that fit in the hole, and then I fit the airline to it, and I
Which is a better way to do it. Right.
kind of finagled it so that it'll hopefully stay put.
Yes.
But it's delicate, so it could get knocked off at any time, and we
Right.
could have a flood. So anyway, that's the way it is. But then, so I finally think everything's done. Okay, I'm getting things put back together. I had to rescue several insects. They get attracted to the light in this room at night.
Hmm.
There's like a night light over the tank. And so every morning I'm with the net harvesting water bugs, moths, whoever fell in. So I'd collected all the bugs, emptied them outside. Some of them lived, some of them made it, some were dead. But then I go and I look behind the tank
Oh, no.
and I see this.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And it was just dead. It's
Oh.
called a Ceanothus silk moth. And
Oh.
he's in perfect condition, so I'm actually gonna put him in a box frame and keep him. But I think he's not wet, he's not injured, he's fully intact. So I think he just went back there and died of natural causes. But I'm so glad that he wasn't flying around in here.
Right. Right.
He's like the size of a small bird.
Yeah, that's huge.
He's got a
Huge.
wingspan of like 5 inches. so
Holy moly.
so yeah, I was gonna try to catch him and take him outside because I thought he usually moths they just sit there,
Yeah.
and until you catch them. So I had went and got a container to catch him in and take him outside. But of course, then when I reached in, I figured out he wasn't moving. He's dead. So he's kind of cool. I think, like I said, he died of natural causes because I found out they only live a week or two. So
Cora Works said probably passed away after a successful breeding. Lots
hopefully
of
not in
moths
my
don't even have
house.
mouth parts as adults. Right. Right.
I'm like, does that mean there's another
Right.
one in here? I'm like, but anyway, so that was kind of a cool thing. But yeah, just all day long it was a Monday. Just stuff kept happening and
Hmm. I've been feeling lately like every day is Monday. It's been just one thing after another, tumbling. You guys, one of the things as Holly was talking, I was thinking about is that's why the website's so important is because when you do have to replace your char, in the char chamber, or you do all of a sudden need to do a freshwater dip or use peroxide, or for whatever reason, having that resource where you don't have to go anywhere else, you can just look it up, is going to be so much easier. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of finishing it. I'm working on it, guys. I promise. I'm sorry. But I'm glad, Holly, you have the notes so that you can go do what you want. On a side note, I wanted to say, Zen Ginger, I absolutely see that you've been a member for 15 months. Level Seahorse
Woohoo.
Whisperer. Do check out the membership for the channel, because not only does it help us bring in guests like we're doing the next month or 2 months, bring in these cool guests that can, teach us more about keeping seahorses in aquariums, what's going on with seahorses in the wild, maybe become a resource for macroalgae, whatever. Different guests for different reasons. Aquaballs is going to talk about his dwarf seahorses, and he's doing a whole bunch of other cool stuff that we will learn about on this channel. But it helps the channel, and I will be following through on the membership details. That's one of the things that I want to do when I'm at Holly's house, is come up with a definitive plan for getting any members the shirts that were promised, and making sure that we're following through, and that you guys can all wear these when we get together, whether it be live or in person. I do know that Macro Lady again was supposed to be here tonight, but she's doing an event for Macna. I've done so many events for Macna. I
Magna got
understand.
canceled though. I
Oh, it
got
did?
a thing. Yeah, they canceled
Oh.
it this year. Yeah.
No, no, I mean something tonight. There was something
Oh,
tonight. I know what you're saying about it being
yeah, the
canceled
one
this
that's
year,
coming up, I saw they made
which
a
is a
thing about it.
shame.
Yeah.
Kevin, to me, Kevin was the heart of Macna. I know he stepped down, so I'm not sure what's going on with
Mhm.
Macna, but it's still a great resource. Not, it's still a great
Mhm.
resource, and I hope they get their stuff together,
Mhm.
because it's a great place to connect with people in the
Yeah.
industry. And I mean, we had fun when it was virtual. I've had many
Mhm.
years where I went and did seahorse groups or women in reefing groups there. So I really hope they figure it out and get it together. I'm just too old and too busy to help make that happen. So I'm glad that Macro Lady is out there trying to help make it happen. Whatever's going on tonight, I don't even know, to be honest. But that's the reason she didn't join us tonight, and she will be back with us. But again, Matt, I kind of forgot where I was going. Where was I going with this, Holly? What, I was talking about something, and I kind of got distracted by Macna.
Oh, I I don't know now. You were
All
just
right.
talking that she's coming, I think, but she was busy tonight
Oh,
with
I know what it was. We were talking about membership to the channel. Sorry, guys. Phew, life has been training me. But membership to the channel, not only does it support, just the community so that we can keep doing this and can bring guests in and can eventually, get membership to mean more than just being a member, but I am so grateful and amazed that people like Zen Ginger and Shyla have been members for so long, just supporting us, period. Right? Even when the perks aren't coming yet,
Oh,
or they
Shia,
are, but
I think that happened to me too. I got a new card, and I think it may have fallen off.
and stuff happens. I just appreciate you all, period. And, if anyone wants to get more involved with the channel and making it, better and making the membership better, I am totally game for help. But in the meantime, I'm going to Holly. She's gonna make sure we at least get the shirts going. And I do have some guests, as I talked about earlier, that are coming up. We'll try to get the channel going in a more positive direction than Kelly pulling her hair and trying to just get here. So that being said, let's move on. Uh, I think that was it. Did you have anything more to say about your day? Because I could talk a little bit about my electrical stuff.
No, I think that was all that had to do with the seahorses.
All right. Okay, yeah, we don't want to hear. I mean, we do want to hear Holly, but yeah, I get it.
No, I
So,
won't. I won't share the other stuff.
right, right. So, I will tell you guys, I didn't update recently about the electrical problems that I was having. We had a Wine Wednesday where everyone was giving me tips because basically, in my all in one 40-gallon tank, I took apart everything and cleaned it, meaning the pumps, the skimmer, the UV, the socks. I bleached everything. I did like a revamp spring cleaning kind of thing, put it all back together, and all of a sudden I would put my finger into whatever, move food around, whatever, and I was getting shocked. And I couldn't figure it out. I tried the whole let's unplug one thing at a time, right? And does it still shock me? But it started to confuse me because I would think I had it completely figured out. I'm not getting shocked. And then the next morning, I would get shocked because
Mhm.
now I'm testing it, right? I don't usually stick my hands in the tank. But now that I know there's a problem, now I'm constantly like, let me just check, right?
Yeah, let's
And
see.
so then I would say, okay, it must be this pump, and I would unplug it. So Chris, Carrie, and Ray both told me, well, just get one of the pens that you can test
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't even know. Let me get my pen actually. Um, Holly, can you chit chat for just a
Let's
second?
do that. Yeah, I guess so.
All right, I'm like putting you on the spot. Well, can you tell them more about what I was going through? Just like if you've
Yeah,
ever experienced being shocked by a tank or whatever while I grab
yeah,
it. Okay.
yeah. So the only time I ever experienced getting shocked, it was kind of a big shock. I was like, "Yow!" And it was from actually the plug-in part getting wet. And so, yeah, I haven't had any issues with stray voltage before. So I do know my husband won't work on electrical because anything where you wiggle a wire and it works, stuff can happen intermittently. So, like
Yeah.
in my Forerunner right now is kind of like that. It has an electrical issue right now, and it doesn't always happen. So,
Right.
like,
Sorry, I don't mean to keep playing with my
and if
hair,
it's
guys. I
not
just keep
happening,
seeing
you
it and it's
can't
crazy.
diagnose it. So that
Right.
makes it
Well,
really difficult to deal with. So I
and
kind of know what you're
but that's
dealing.
a great point because I kept thinking, honestly, and again, guys, I'm sorry I keep playing with my hair, but I have this piece sticking up and I'm like, what the hell is this? Anyways, it's just going to
Oh, and
stick up.
Zen says drip loops are your friend. And I
Drip
have all
loops.
that, but in my instance, it was because I got it wet. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen by oh, it just happened to get wet. It happened because I dropped it in the in the in a puddle or something.
So,
So
so right, but great point, Zen. We could even dive into that
yeah.
conversation if we need to about drip loops and making sure that it comes back up so you're not, if something does happen, it's not getting and corrupting everything. Totally great. But here's what I'm talking about, guys. I'll make myself big real quick. So this is like I just got generic one, but
Mhm.
this is the pen I got. You guys can hear it, I hope. Let's see. Okay, don't work. Power on. Could you guys hear that?
Heard it say power on. Yeah.
Power on. So when I touch this to anything electrical, well, shit. What's your problem, dude? Okay. So it'll say caution, low voltage electrical to almost everything, right?
Mhm.
And I finally, so I'm going to shut it off because it's going crazy because I got so many, I've got lights, I've got everything. I don't
It's
even know what's
judging
going on.
everything around you.
Right. It's like, there's too much electricity. Let me make it me small again. But my point being, I turn it on, it talks to me, and I put it up to anything electrical. And this thing was only like, I can't even, I think like $15. It wasn't that, maybe 20. But it looks like a pen. And basically, I put it up to anything like a plug-in. This isn't a plug-in, obviously, but I'd go like this and it'll say, caution, low voltage. So I call Chris Carey. And yes, I can do that because I'm cool. He's in Australia. He's, semi-famous, but he takes my calls. And so I was like, Chris, I don't understand. It's telling me everything is caution, right? And he was like, no, no, no. That's just telling you there's electricity. What you're looking for is the red. So if you look at it, there's like 3 notches right here, and it'll tell me, caution, this is electrical, could be a problem someday. But then if it turns red, it's telling me like it's a live wire or whatever. Anyhow, he had to explain that to me, because if you're out there and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? I was right there with you. I was like, oh my God, can't it just work? And so I ended up figuring out the reason that I would think I had it figured out and then I didn't, is because it was my pump, one of my pumps of 2, and then my skimmer. And
both?
Yes. And I put in our Wine Wednesday chat, how is that possible? This is all equipment that's only, what, 3, 4 years old? I mean, maybe 5. It's not like really old equipment. It was all brand new when I bought it. So what did I do wrong when I was cleaning this equipment that caused this problem? Because that's the only thing I could think, is that as I was cleaning it, I'm at a loss, guys. Like, I'm asking you guys, because I found out the problem. I'm fixing it. I bought a new skimmer. I bought a new pump, but I don't understand why I should have had to do that or what went wrong. Like with the pump, I take my pumps completely apart to clean them on the inside only once in a while. This last time happened to be that once in a while. So I have dealt with in the past where if you think about the inside of a pump, the stick piece that goes in the propeller usually has little 2 tiny black end caps. If you know what I'm talking about with the smaller, not DC pumps, just the regular pumps, they have 2 end caps. And if you lose one of those while you're cleaning it, you're going to have a catastrophe. You're going to have all sorts of mess. It won't work. It'll intermittently work. It'll be a mess. So I've dealt with all those little type things, but for it to have an electrical problem, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why. I mean, it's as easy, I guess, as buying new equipment, but, and Zen Ginger said,
maybe stuff just isn't made like it used to be. Maybe if it was 20 or 30 years old, it would still be working.
Right. That's what Ray would say if he was here. That's what he would say. But Zen said, salt is obviously corrosive. Is there anything metallic getting sprayed off where they're located? So what do you mean by metallic? So
like any metal stuff around?
The only thing I could think of is the light fixture, right? Because it's an all-in-one tank. So the light fixture has one of those clamps that makes the light go over the tank. And it is rusted. So it's obviously getting messed up by salt and water. But it's fine. My little pen says it's fine. And so I'm just like, I must have done something. Let's see. And are you supposed to take them apart to service them, or is there some kind of barrier that gets broken when you take them apart? So no. I mean, you're supposed to be able to take a pump apart and clean it for sure.
I want to say mine, I think it comes with directions to do that. I think I've never done it, but I think it says it's a Jabeo, and I believe it came with a little book or something. I save all my paperwork in binders, so I'd have to look for it. But
and again,
I think they show diagram of the parts even of how to do it.
Well, and again, that's the difficulty, because I'm right there with you, Holly. my Jabeo pump that has so I can't pull all this equipment up to show you guys, but you guys know what I'm talking about if you've kept tanks. With
Hmm.
the Jabeo pump for a bigger tank that is sitting in a sump that is bigger, and it has the end piece that kind of tries to stop stuff from getting in there and getting it clogged, that's a different situation from in my all-in-one where I have two small, they're literally this big
Hmm.
size pumps. The only way you can adjust them is by turning a knob. The only way water gets in and out is via these little holes.
Hmm.
So if you have an algae problem, which I've had, you know,
Don't get
tons of,
clogged.
it gets clogged. Right. So then it gets clogged and you're like, oh, I just clean off the surface. But no, you have to take them. And it's very easy. You just twist the cap off, you pull it out, you clean it out, you clean off any hair that's on the stick part. You just can't
Yeah.
lose any pieces. So I've done this hundreds of times. Yes, you can clean your pumps. It's just that something, either this pump and this skimmer was so not well made that it's just falling apart, period. Or
Mhm.
I did something wrong when I was cleaning it. But I don't know what I could have done wrong. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about electricity to know. And my husband, I don't take apart pumps. My husband does that. And yeah, it's a normal thing to do because we have a pond and he takes those that get clogged on a regular basis and he has to take it apart and clean it and put it back together.
Cora Work said, yeah, impellers should be cleaned every year or so. And Bonnie asked, are you using a power strip? So that was another thought for me, right?
So what they're
Yes,
plugged
I
into.
do. I absolutely use a power strip. But I literally went and that was the first thing I did is
Hmm.
buy a new power strip because mine's very old. So I thought maybe that's it. And correct me if I'm wrong, like Cora Works, but my little pen tells me that all of my power strips are fine. I plug something
Yeah.
into every hole, it's fine. It's literally the skimmer that I've had for like maybe 4 years.
Yeah. So you know
And
exactly that it's that.
so this was a good buy because I have fixed the problem, right? I figured out with this pen that it was the
What it
skimmer
was.
and one of the pumps.
So that's
But it's
why it
just
was
so
two things, not just one. So that's what made it confusing for you.
right because I
And
would
who
plug.
knows? Like I said with electricity, who knows? It might have nothing to do with you taking them apart. Does
But
the
I mean, for
pen
that's
tell you like what part of it is messed up?
no, no.
Yeah, so
It
there's
just
no way
says
to know, I guess.
it. I wish I should have taken a video. I'll try to do a video and show you. But if I plug in that pump or
Mhm.
that skimmer, I get beep beep beep, live wire,
I
live
wonder
wire.
if when you put it back together, if you pinched the wire somehow,
But what
you know,
wire?
putting things back together, the power cord, like if it got
No.
pinched inside somewhere and
Get
a little
anybody
cut
who
in it.
knows, anybody who's taken apart. Well, let me say this first. I didn't even take apart the skimmer. The
Mhm.
skimmer, I literally put in a bucket, put vinegar in, and ran vinegar
So you
through
didn't
the,
even
the
take the
skimmer.
pump out of the skimmer, you
Nope,
just put the in pump and
not at
all.
all.
So you didn't
And
even
then
touch any wire.
with the pump, I did absolutely take it apart, but I put it back together. It seems to work fine. And besides, like anybody who's taken apart these types of equipment, Cora Works for you, you're not messing with anything electrical, right? You're
Yeah.
not, there's no wires being pinched. There's nothing. I'm
Nothing for it
just at a
to get
loss.
pinched in or I wondered, could it have been happening already before you did that and you just
I
didn't
think I
notice?
would have noticed because that shock zapped me
It
and I
was
was like,
enough,
oh
yeah.
no.
Or
Right.
maybe it had been happening but not strong enough until then. But that's weird that both of them at the same time started doing it and it was after you
Right.
cleaned it. So,
Well, and that was the crazy part is I'm like, it's got to be one of these pumps. But I unplugged the pump that I now
yeah,
know is bad, and it would still be shocking me. And then I'd be like, oh, it was very frustrating,
yeah.
guys. But
And you
I
inspected the cord? You didn't see any places that got nicked or anything?
nothing.
Any wires exposed at all? Or
Nope.
yeah,
Nothing.
that's I said, like I said earlier, I think that's why my husband says he doesn't do electrical.
Right. Right. Well, I'm just putting it out there because if anybody ever goes through this, it is so frustrating. And I don't have an answer why my skimmer and one of my pumps are all of a sudden having trouble. Um, Open to suggestions, but this little bad boy was a lifesaver because it literally told me what the problems were.
Mhm.
Even when there was two problems, and I'm like, it told me what they were. As I told you guys earlier, I'm expecting a new pair of Seahorses. I don't know that they'll go in that tank. They sure won't go in there tomorrow. But point being, I want to get my stuff in order because I want fry. And so just saying, if you're having that kind of problem, if you touch the tank with the water of the tank anytime and you get a little tingle, it's time to buy one of these bad boys and find out
And
what the
find
problem
out
is.
which thing is doing it. So I have a question for you then. So
Yeah.
you're waiting for a pump to come, and this is
Yes.
on your cube,
All
right?
in one. Yeah.
All in one. So what are you doing in the meanwhile for running that tank?
Good question. So this pump has basically two pump or this tank. I'm sorry. This tank, it's an all-in-one. If you've never kept one, it's basically a tank without a sump, but it has a
A
compartment
slot?
in the back where
What
you can hold a skimmer, a UV, socks, K1 chamber, etc. So basically, what I've done is I've turned up the pump that does work, taken out the pump that I'm waiting to replace, and so my K1 media reactor is hooked to the same air pump that also um, services the Robert King char chamber. So I
Mhm,
couldn't turn that up too much because I don't want my K1 to spin too fast, right? I just want it
mhm.
hitting each other, and I didn't want my with the Robert King char chamber. Again, we got to get him back in here, guys, to talk more with us. But in my experience, in my knowledge, I think that water going through the Robert King chamber too fast would be negative because you want it to go
Mhm.
through slowly enough so that the bacteria living on the char
Mhm.
is able to do its magic, right? In very simple terms. If it's shooting through there and just bubbling out, it's not doing what it needs to do. So I left that low because it's hooked to both. And I also added, because my air pump has like four, I think, different nozzles where I can add different things to the air
Yeah,
pump.
one of
So
those.
I added two more, basically rigid airlines that are just making bubbles in the tank, just causing surface agitation. And I had to replace the skimmer and the pump. So in the meantime, I just upped the other pump and make sure I'm paying
So
attention.
you don't have your, like, return nozzles working or anything? Is that because it goes all in the one tank?
So sorry. So
Yeah.
each in the all-in-one, each little pump in the back is hooked to one or two return nozzles. So yeah,
Okay,
right
so you have
now,
2, so we have 1 running now and the other's
and
not.
one not. Right.
Okay, gotcha.
I would like to make another point. If you're ever in this situation, one of the things that happened to me long ago, not recently, but I've had a seahorse go up to a return nozzle that's not working, and because you had the other one working, or the tank functioning without that one return nozzle, it's sucking water, which doesn't make sense, but it can suck in a seahorse. So
That
one of the
has
things
to
I
do with
did,
that siphon thing like I was
yes.
talking about that squirted me in the face this morning. Yeah,
So
it does.
what I did is I literally just took my airline on the pump that I am replacing that's no longer working right now. I took the rigid air or the lock line and I put it above the water so
Mm.
that no seahorse can access it. It's not sucking in water, etc. It's not a great situation for me, but I do
Yeah,
use
but it's
Amazon, so the
working
shit will
in
be
the
here tomorrow. Right.
yeah.
It'll be here tomorrow. And they're okay. And if I saw anybody acting funny, I would use water changes, you know.
Mhm.
You can run a tank without any of this equipment if you do massive water changes.
Yeah,
I'm just lazy. I don't like to.
it's hard
So,
work.
yeah. So, um let's see. Wait, Cora Works first said, I know a guy who used to dilute muriatic acid instead of vinegar due to calcium buildup, but I would not recommend that, so we won't even talk about it. All right. And same thing with scrubbing the area the impeller goes. You could accidentally make a weakness in the housing. Oh, interesting. That's really interesting. I don't feel like I did. Like, to be honest, I didn't scrub anything. I
No,
removed
and you
pieces
didn't
of the
even take apart the skimmer, you
skimmer.
said. You just put it
Yeah.
in. So you didn't take the motor and scrub it. You just ran
No,
vinegar through it is all. So,
exactly. It's really frustrating. I think what you said at one point, Holly, is the real truth. They make things the way they used to, right? So
mhm. Mhm.
we're stuck with a point where we have to replace things more often than we should need to. And I'm really disappointed, but at least this thing helped me figure out what it was,
Mhm.
right? So that's all I got on that. Anyways, that's all I got on that. Just super frustrated, and hope it helps somebody else that happens to go through it, because it's so
Mhm.
frustrating trying to figure that out and being shocked. Ugh, not fun.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we have for Seahorse questions? Or Holly, did you have anything else?
No, everybody's doing fine here.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could absolutely make this a short night, guys. It wouldn't kill me. If you have any questions or anything you want to chat about, let me know. But the only other thing I would say is I'm super excited for this new pair of Seahorses. I can't wait to share the raising fry journey with you. I forgot to mention when I told you I was getting this pair, they've already had 2 batches. They're not huge batches, but they're young
Mhm.
Seahorses. So super excited. Hope it works out. Hope they arrive tomorrow. I'm right there with any new keeper. Like, I'm like, please let them arrive safe and unharmed and happy, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I will document where it goes from there so that you guys can share the
So, do you
journey.
know where they're going to live yet? Who they're going to move in with?
I don't. I don't. As we were talking about before we went live, I'm not sure about anything yet. Like, I've cleaned both
Mhm.
tanks thoroughly, did huge water changes this morning.
Mhm.
And I do have a tank sitting aside, and Holly recommended having a bucket of water sitting aside, made in case I needed to examine quarantine. Because here's the thing, quarantine's really big, really important. I don't ever tell anybody not to quarantine. But the other thing I always say is follow the instructions of the person you're buying from. And when I dealt with Dan for years and years and years, his instructions were not to quarantine, to instead temp acclimate them, scoop them out, and put them in the tank. That's what Alyssa Seahorse Savvy says also. Now, caveat, that does depend on how you have your tank set up, what's in the tank, and all that good stuff. Like, if they're going in a tank with other critters, that matters. But in my tank, it's just seahorses. So I'm at this point where I'm going to get the seahorses. I'm going to observe them in the bag. I'm going to temp acclimate them. I'm probably going to end up putting them in the all in one and
Mhm.
moving some of the seahorses from there into the 65.
Move the
That's what I,
all-in-ones into the other. That makes sense.
it's just so much easier for me to observe.
Mhm.
And because the all in one is mainly artificial, right? Again,
Mhm.
guys, it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you want a beautiful tank, none of what I'm talking about matters to you. But in my case, I want fry. So I want the most sterile environment possible so that I can see everything, so that if the fry is born, I can collect them quickly, etc. So I'm just thinking that the all-in-one's a better situation for them. And I'm not sure who I'm going to
Maybe,
leave.
maybe you should take everybody out of the
I
all-in-one
know.
that's in there and move them all to the other tank, since you know all their health and everything. You know you have no problems. Move them completely out of that tank and use your all-in-one as not just their home, but kind of a temporary quarantine situation for them as well. That way, if there is any problems, you're just confining one tank and none of your other seahorses are exposed.
Perfect advice. I was thinking that on the end, like in the back of my head, that's
And
what I
then
was
you just
thinking
have to
too.
do extra maintenance on your other tank to make up for
Right,
so many in it. But
right. But then that could be my breeder tank. And if they don't give me fry, then we're looking at now, really, I do have to consider that it is a tank because they've had two batches already.
yeah, they were
So why
already
are they
breeding,
not?
So yeah.
So that would give me good indications. And you're right,
Hmm.
Holly, taking the other seahorses out means that there's no other excuse. I mean, there
Hmm.
still could be things from the
Yeah.
other seahorses, but I know they're
Hmm.
healthy. So if I
Yeah.
put just this pair in this tank, then I can really determine if they don't give me fry, it's the
Hmm.
tank for some reason, and then investigate that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that's a really good plan. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you, Holly.
It just
But
came to me. You're welcome.
all right. And hang on. CoreWork said, why can a power plug be half plugged in, receive power, and it's also the perfect size for my finger, thumb to actually sit behind? Okay. All right. 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 Uh, okay. And Zen said, are you supposed to take them apart to service them, or is there some kind of barrier that gets broken when you take them apart? I think I'm going to previous comments. Sorry, guys,
Yeah, I
but
think you said that one already.
yeah, I mean it's just that,
Mhm.
as Cora Work said, maybe once a year to clean the impeller. You
Mhm.
don't have to do it every water change or every cleaning for sure. Um, Yet another reason to run DC pumps. Right. Find me a DC pump for an all-in-one, Cora Works, because I love DC pumps. That's
I
it.
was gonna
I
say, yeah,
love them.
mine are DC, but yeah, they're in sumps. The
Right.
Jabeo in the sump, yeah.
So I'm restricted to this 5x5 area for each pump. Like, again, guys, I set out to prove you could keep seahorses in an apartment or wherever in an all-in-one tank without a sump. And you can, but you see my struggles,
It's
right?
not
You're
as
going to
easy,
have these
yeah.
struggles. It's
Mhm.
not as easy. Um, okay, and Zen said, so if we get to the point that I'm ready to set up my tanks finally and there's no tank bred seahorses available, what do I do besides buying wild caught and hoping against hoping for the best? So,
Find somebody
Holly,
like us who's selling them.
that's it.
I mean,
That's
that's
it.
how Kelly got hers from a fellow seahorse
So the
enthusiast.
way this occurred is that Macro Lady posted in one of the groups. We let her know politely that you can't sell seahorses in the groups, unfortunately. Holly contacted me. I'm like, are they
Maybe I want
breeding?
to.
Are they breeding? Because she still actually has a pair available for the record. So if you're that ready, Zen, there you go. You can
There's
see
some,
how
yeah.
mine from her do, and etc. But basically, it's that connection. I again, we go back to Kelly needs to finish the site, because one of the things I want to do is create like a, not a board, but somehow that people can say, I've
I
got this
have
fry I don't
these
want.
available.
I've got
And
these
we can
seahorses I
say
need to
it
rehome.
here, right? If
Yes,
somebody contacts us, you can say here on our YouTube channel, so and
yes,
so has seahorses available.
yes.
So So
So
if
if
you have
anyone,
some, tell us, or if you're looking for some, tell us and try to put everybody in touch.
so for you, Zen, since you're our prized member and help with the channel so much, we will find you captive bred seahorses. You don't have to worry about that. Whether they, depending on how long, whether they come from me or no,
Yeah.
but we'll find them for you. We'll
Mhm.
find someone that we think is trustworthy, that is trying to rehome or sell, and we will hook you up for sure. And for anybody out there selling, you guys share this kind of information because, yeah, they can come on this channel or they can reach out to Holly, Ray, or I, and we can absolutely say, hey, we know where, so many Erectus are available captive bred, and totally make that connection for you for sure.
God says we need a code word on for Facebook or something like I got him.
Who said that?
Scott did. He says you guys
Oh,
need a secret code you can just say on Facebook and people know what it means.
sure. I might agree with that a little bit, but all they got to do is reach out to us in Messenger. You can use
Yeah.
Messenger, by the
Hmm.
way. And Zen said, but if I don't know the Seahorse person, how do I know if they have trustworthy stock? What are your thoughts, Holly? Sorry, I'm losing my
Well,
voice.
I think you don't know for sure, but it helps to have like word of mouth. If they're known, if other people trust them, if you talk to friends and they say, yeah, that person has good seahorses. I think it's kind of the same as you do with anything, you're buying when you're researching who to buy from. Like if you're buying off marketplace or whatever. You just kind
Sure.
of have to talk to oh, do you know so and so? They have seahorses for sale, and Kelly might say, oh yeah, I met that person at Macna one year, or blah blah blah. You just ask around and talk to each other,
So
and
let me tell you guys what I asked, because to be honest, I can't wait to have Macro Lady on this show, right? Because
hmm
she has a source for macros, guys. That's so
yeah,
exciting for all of us, right?
she
But
has a
then,
website.
and she politely, yes, we'll share her site for sure. If anybody can put out that link, please do. Holly, if you've got it, put it up. But if not,
Really.
I will in a minute. Okay, I will in a minute. But I was gonna say, I don't know her. I've never met
Hmm.
her. Here are the key things that made me even interested in talking with her. Number one, after she removed her post about selling seahorses in both Seahorse Sources group and Seahorse Whisperer group, because we politely asked her, she talked with Holly, and then they reached out to me. So, first of all, she politely removed the post once she realized it wasn't allowed. Second of all, she's involved with places like Macna, right? That just to me, all of a sudden, I feel like she's got a reputation she needs to keep, right? Not
Hmm.
that, I don't know if that's taken wrong, but I'm just saying that that appeals to me, that she's
Hmm.
involved with these resources, that she's a vendor at, that she wouldn't want to sell something that was less than par. Um, Let me look at the questions. I don't need
I
to look.
think Zen Ginger put up a link. Is that it?
Let's see.
The macrolady.com shop.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you, Zen. And so next, she's dealing with macros, and we talked about that. But once I started talking to her, my first questions were, how old are the seahorses? Because that matters. If they're not even whether or not you want fry, if they don't know the age of the seahorses, that's a bad thing,
Mhm.
right? So I asked the age of the seahorses. I asked if there were any problems with them. I asked for pictures. I asked for their tank conditions. And in this case, I'll be completely honest, she was honest with me, and she said, because of whatever's going on with her, won't share her details, but she had to put the seahorses in a tank where they are possibly going to get stung by things like anemones. And she knows that that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the fact that she knows that it's wrong was a
Mm-hmm.
plus. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that she's trying to rehome them is a plus. The fact that she, told me that this pair has not been in any way harmed was a plus. So again, it's a gambling thing, like Holly said. But if we get the website going, we're going to screen for it. And I'm just trying to think of any other questions like CoraWorks asked. How do you weed out the bad? Another thing is if you're like dealing with a pet store or even a person you don't know. I did not ask this of the seahorses I bought just because I got so much of a good connection with this person
Mm-hmm.
that I felt very confident. But
You felt
you've never
comfortable.
dealt with seahorses, so I understand being more skeptical. If you're dealing with a pet store, if you're dealing with a person, you can't ask to see them being fed because there are people selling seahorses that are only trained to eat live foods. You don't want that, even captive bred. So if I was to buy from a pet store, I would absolutely say, please feed them. I want to see them eat frozen mysis. I want to see that they don't take forever to eat it, that they know to eat it. Um, what else, Holly? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm kind of trying to see from her perspective because for us having had them for
Right.
so long, it's like I know what to look for and I know what to ask. But for somebody who's new completely and not familiar, you might want to have somebody who is take a look at the seahorses or ask questions for you and say, okay, I think, this might be a good thing, or it seems kind of sketchy to me. Yeah, yeah, it's a hard
Good
one
point.
because yeah, there is a lot of trust involved, and if you don't know what you're looking for, I mean, that's why I take, Scott or one of my male friends that works on cars with me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at used cars to buy because I don't really know what to look for.
Good point. I
So
think I think we could do better, like meaning Seahorse Whisperer. We could do better at getting up a list of
like
questions that to
referrals,
ask
yeah, would be a
and
good
referrals.
thing and
But I would
helpful.
say for like today, if you're ready to buy tomorrow, I
Hmm.
absolutely like Holly's idea. Ask the person for pictures. Um, people can lie about pictures too, but ask them for pictures and then come to us, right? And we can say, ooh, ask about this big white patch because we know the difference between saddle markings and a big white patch, right?
Hmm.
Um, ask the kind of tank they're in. I just need to make you a list. That's what I need to do because it's hard to just spout it out. But because, as Holly said, we can look and be like, okay, they're okay. Now we just need to know what kind of tank they are coming from. But
Hmm.
if you're brand new and don't even know what to look for, I agree. Good points, Holly.
Yeah.
Um,
You might want to see a good thing to ask maybe is what their tank parameters are that they're in and see if they're within the right range for seahorses because if they're not, there could be problems with the seahorses down the line that hasn't shown up yet. Like if they're keeping their tank too warm without adequate filtration and water, so ask kind of how they've been cared for and what their tank is like, where their home, you can kind of get a feel for,
no,
how they.
absolutely, because we've kind of proved this, not scientifically, but we've proved this on this channel through different guests that seahorses, captive bred seahorses, actually can live in a tank that's not suited for them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a 300-gallon tank with a 200-gallon sump, right? When
Mm-hmm.
there's that much water volume, that much area that maybe doesn't have dangerous stuff, and maybe they're feeding them on the side, that's fine. But if if captive bred seahorses are coming from that and coming to a 30-gallon tank, it's not the same, not going to work. They're going to bring things that won't work. So I like, learning about where they're coming from, and just asking those kind of questions. I'm going to make a list. I really am, because I think it needs to be done. But now my voice is getting all scratchy and I'm losing my voice, guys. Is there anything else we need to chat about tonight? Next week, I think we have George from Aqua Balls.
Oh, Zen was asking about pipefish.
Okay, hang on. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, next week is George, but we still will make time at the end, absolutely, for open questions. All right, Zen, I don't see the comment yet, so, okay, yes, I do. All right. Question about pipefish. Are there any of those that are compatible tank mates, or are they too closely related and therefore like mixing seahorses and probably not recommended? Holly, your thoughts first.
I think they're not supposed to be mixed with seahorses. Other than I want to say there's one that can live with dwarves, I believe, if I remember right.
Kill a spider.
But yeah, it's been a long time. I had a pipefish many years ago, but I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is one that you can keep with dwarves. I d- I don't remember. I just kind of in my mind that kind of sticks out. There is one situation, but with the bigger seahorses, no, I think it's kind of like mixing species of seahorses, like she said.
So here's the problem with any question. And I always say that, I know, but it's
Mhm.
the truth. I try to tell you
There's
guys the
always
truth.
an exception.
There's always an exception. So if you ask Dan from Seahorse Source, he would say absolutely not. You
Hmm.
cannot keep pipefish with seahorses because, as you correctly asked, they're too closely related.
Hmm.
So then you've got the bacteria and the parasites and everything bad that
Hmm.
can affect a species is, if it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not doing
cool.
it. I can't. It's
Yeah,
really hard
it's
to
kind of
explain.
like the analogy I like to use is it was kind of like the Europeans coming to America infecting all the Indians with pathogens that they weren't accustomed to.
Right.
So they
But
succumbed
no.
to illnesses that we and it's kind of the same with
No,
seahorses.
it's
Like
not.
one seahorse might have more of an immunity to something than another species does.
Right. Truth. And that's the explanation for mixing seahorses with other fish that maybe came
With
from the
other
wild. Absolutely.
seahorses, yeah.
Or other seahorses that are a different
Mhm,
species. But with pipefish, they're so closely related that the
mhm,
trouble is that if you think you're safe because you have the Native American, whatever, you have
mhm,
seahorses, but then you bring in pipefish, they can have the worst things that affect seahorses
mhm,
because they're the same, so closely related. I'm not
mhm.
explaining it well.
Yeah.
I'll ask Dan to give me a better way to explain it. But
Mhm,
technically, you're right, Zen, that because they're so closely related, it's more dangerous to mix them because maybe a clownfish has ick.
mhm,
Seahorses can get ick in their gills, but it's very unlikely. So
mhm,
that's a disease that if it was mixed with a seahorse, the seahorse probably wouldn't get it. Whereas anything that a pipefish had would have absolutely affect a seahorse, if that makes any sense. I know I'm not. But
mhm,
here's the thing is that anymore pipefish are captive bred, right? So that changes that entire scope. If you're buying captive bred pipefish, they're going to be the same as a seahorse that's captive bred. So it's not as dangerous. So as
mhm,
long as you're not buying wild caught, period, and you're buying all captive bred, it's a different situation. And George from Aquaballs will be explaining even more next week because I believe he's keeping seahorses with, or dwarf seahorses with pipefish.
I
So,
did when I had dwarves. I had a pipefish also, and that's
so
why
we're
I
going to
said
talk to him.
I think in that situation you can. I think there is a kind of pipefish that can live with the dwarves
Right.
specifically, if I remember right. But I mean, that's been a really long time, and
So Zen said, I wondered if it was like mixing discus with angels, freshwater. It's kind of a no-no from what I've heard because they carry slightly different bacteria and you run risk if they are exposed to each other. Right, because like I'm not scientific enough to explain all this, guys, but that's it. Is that a clownfish can have this, but a seahorse can never get this. A
hmm
seahorse has this, and a pipefish has this that's closely related but different. So the pipefish can handle this, the seahorse can handle this, but when they
hmm
mix, because they're susceptible to the same stuff,
hmm
but they're not exposed to the same stuff,
yeah,
then it's a big old
exactly,
problem. I don't know if that was a
exactly.
better way to say it, but
It's pretty much
when
the
they're all
same thing as my Europeans and Native Americans.
kind
That's
of, but
exactly the same thing because we're both people, we're both able to
yeah,
check those
but
things. But
but the whole point with pipefish and seahorses is that
mhm,
they're so closely related
mhm,
that they're more susceptible than somebody that's not at all
mhm,
related. So that
mhm,
your analogy was great. I'm
mhm,
just trying to hone in on the part that it's because they're so closely related.
mhm,
And either way, it's kind of blown out of the water by captive breeding because when you're dealing with a captive bred pipefish and a captive bred seahorse, you don't run as much risk. There's always risk, guys, but there's not as much. If that, I hope that helped a little. They don't have them, they have the immunities, but not for the other stuff.
mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk with George next week. I will make a note to try to talk with Dan or someone this week so that I can answer the question more scientifically because I'm not. You guys know I'm not. But
Mhm,
it's an important question. And Zen, I know you're trying to set up properly. So I will get you some answers. Um, I would say, in the meantime, anyone watching, stick with captive bred. That makes the world of difference, period. And we'll go from there next week when we talk with George because I know he's keeping pipefish with dwarfs and he's doing it successfully and very well. So let's talk with him and let me get some more information before next week. I'm literally losing my voice, y'all. I know I sound scratchy and terrible. So I'm going to end it for tonight. We will be back next week with George, Aquaballs. Um, and we will make time for open chat. And I'm going to do a little bit more research or just talk with Dan. I know, but I don't know how to explain it. So what you're saying, Zen, is absolutely correct. I just am like, ooh, can I remember exactly why? No.
mhm.
So I'll come back next week with some better information, hopefully. But for tonight, let's call it, Holly. I can't. I'm losing my voice here.
All right.
But I appreciate all of you that came and joined us. Tell everybody to come when we have these guests. I'm going to put up some ads, but you got to share them in your groups so that more people come and then people want to come and be guests. So help me out. Appreciate it.